All right, so we are here today with Kate Antoniotti. I've met her I think a few years ago and at a seminar, and I have been following her on social media all these years, and we seem to practice similarly, and we're both yoga instructors and chiropractors, and I love what she's doing with her program called Mamacore, and I wanted her to tell you a little bit about it, where she started, where she's at now, where she hopes to go with it. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Dr. Kate. Yeah, I'm a chiropractor with a background in yoga, and I'm a mom, and I just get so much joy from being that, and then also serving that. So taking the background of yoga and chiropractic, and then having the awareness that as women, after we have our children, we really feel like there isn't much guidance. And that's where Mamacore was birthed from, literally. I had my first baby in 2016, and I remember being just a couple weeks postpartum and feeling incredibly isolated and just like not knowing what does this mean for my body, realizing that my body felt so different. And even with the background as a chiropractor that we have, even that didn't feel like enough for me to feel like I knew what to expect or what was to come. And it was in probably like late night nursing sessions and all of that I just started going down the rabbit hole, searching out for more information about postpartum rehabilitation and healing and returning to exercise and pelvic floor rehab and core rehab, and as well as like mothers groups and community. That isolation wasn't just like the physical, like weird separation I felt from my own body, but it was also the isolation of like lack of community. So Mamacore, over time, from doing continuing ed classes on this topic, on movement in motherhood, on rehab in motherhood, blending it with the ICPA trainings that we take as chiropractors, certified in Webster technique, and taking all of that and blending it into this, I just kind of realized that I actually had the tools now. So it was when my son was about 10 months old that I hosted my first like gathering. I think there was like 10 of us, and it was in a small gym space that a patient of mine owned, and we just sat in a circle and shared our birth stories, and we were all on the postpartum journey, but at very different stages. There was some, like 8 weeks postpartum all the way to 8 years postpartum in that group, and everything in between. And the feeling that I felt like in my body, that feeling you get when you just know that you're like in the midst of the right thing, whatever that is. I felt that so hard as I was leaving that meeting. And I realized like, this is absolutely something that needs to exist. And how lucky I am to be able to facilitate this for my community. So Mamacore started as that, and it's taken a lot of different variations. COVID has definitely changed the variation and put it into an online format, where we meet virtually every Monday night through my local yoga studio. Before that, it was transferred from my patient's gym to this local yoga studio, and then from the local yoga studio to the online format where we are right now, with hopes to get back into connecting in person again soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you also have I love your social media presence in the Mamacore. You break down some exercises. They're all super helpful. And I know we both like DNS, but where did some of them almost look like a little blend of Pilates, I think, like your mermaid?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thank you so much for complimenting my Instagram, because you are my Instagram idol. Like, you are putting out so much helpful information, and it's probably a week doesn't go by that I don't like direct a patient to your account because of the things that you're sharing. So you've mastered reels. I'm like so afraid of reels. So props to you.
Thank you.
But so the things I share on Mamacore Instagram page, they are definitely a blend of yoga and Pilates and DNS. So my background was as the Vinyasa yoga teacher. So taking all the postures of normal asana practice and like flowing them together. And I started teaching that when I was in chiropractic school. So probably for the last like 10 years, I've been teaching in that style. And then then when I had my son, I started rehabbing myself with Pilates, because part of my deep dive into like understanding what to do next, a lot of people I really admire recommended Pilates, specifically reformer Pilates. So I found a Pilates instructor in my area. She was actually teaching out of a spine physical therapy practice, so a PT practice that rehabbed a lot of like serious injuries. And between her knowledge on the mechanics of the body and then yoga postures and movements and on the reformer, it was just that felt so good. And I credit that a lot to my personal healing journey. So then realizing that I was incredibly privileged to be able to afford to go to a Pilates instructor in a PT clinic on the reformer, that's where the movements and the flows of birth for them to do a lot of these movements that without a reformer. And honestly, we don't even use a yoga mat anymore. We just have an open space like on a carpet. So
yeah, nice, awesome. We actually I was telling you before, I'm from a pretty small town, and we actually do have a really nice Pilates studio that has the reformers in it, and they do like group classes. So I love trying to send people there, and I don't know a ton about Pilates. I like to take it, but it's when people who don't do Pilates or yoga think that they're the same, I always say like, no, they're very, very different things.
Yeah, very much so. And both very valuable in their own way.
Definitely. And so you are also a chiropractor. Do you find that you have a lot of your patients that also kind of like to transition into your Mamacore classes?
Yeah, definitely. That's really a huge pillar as to why Mamacore exists. Because like me, a lot of my patients didn't have a clear pathway as to what postpartum healing would look like, or honestly, even just a safe space to talk about all the things that we go through in pregnancy, in birth, in postpartum. There's so many like pockets of professionals in every area, right? There's a doula collective, there is your birth provider, there is your like gym, but there wasn't anything to like connect all those things, like connecting the birth education piece to the doula piece, like all of it. And so within our chiropractic practice, I love all three of us in our office are Webster certified. So we all serve pregnant patients. I definitely we joke that I tried to like steal them and put them on my schedule because I just love working with women in that stage of their journey, because there's just so much benefit and power to not only the adjustment in pregnancy and the effects that can have on just like how good they can feel in their pregnancy, but also how healthy their pregnancy can truly be, and the prep that it does to increase the likelihood of an optimal birth experience. But also then the preparation piece and the conversations that we get to have around postpartum, and just talking to them about, what postpartum might be like, especially for first time moms, asking them, what do you envision? What are your goals for, like, how do you want to feel when you bring the baby home, and what is it going to take for you to feel that way? And talking about like how we can start practicing asking for help, start being clear on what our boundaries are with family, with all the things, and so that all happens within the realm of my practice, but then Mamacore became this additional piece that I could offer to the women in my practice, to one, when they during their pregnancy, to know that there is a next step, because for so many of us that you don't even know, like you kind of feel like you get all the attention in your pregnancy and then baby's born and then everyone's just staring at the baby and all the visits and appointments are for the baby. So just to know that there's a safe space for them and just them. And I've very consciously made this just Mamacore. I love pediatrics. I love seeing babies in my office. We see lots of newborns. But as much as I love mom and baby yoga, my colleagues at the yoga studio, they do that. Like Mamacore is just for mom, because we really do need that space to remember who we are, to reclaim our identity in motherhood, to have the space to reformat and reconsider our identity in motherhood, because for so many of us it is such a huge identity shift. So yeah, Mamacore is like, clearly you can hear by the way I'm talking about it, like just it was really created for the women in my practice, to have that next step.
Yeah, definitely. And that is something in my office we sort of struggle with, is that moms moms to be are excellent at coming in while pregnant, because they have, they want a natural childbirth, or maybe they want their baby's positioning to be better, any of those things. But then once the baby comes, they take a back seat, and you might not see them again for months, when you know that they could really use your help. Because I found, for personally, that my pregnancy was like a walk in the park, and delivery was easy, but afterwards, with sleep deprivation and nursing in odd positions and going back to work really early, that is when I needed treated.
Totally.
And
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I joke often, and this isn't a great joke, but I say, like, I don't know how people go through postpartum, go through this season of life, that first year especially, without chiropractic, because it was the nursing positions, just the generalized stress in my body. My nervous system was so overwhelmed, and that is exactly what chiropractic offers to moms, is this opportunity to reset and resettle and to feel ease in their body again, naturally. So yeah, I think that I don't do it perfectly. Like a lot of moms do drop off, because, and I totally understand why, it is overwhelming. That especially after your first, like that transition into motherhood is very overwhelming, on so many levels, but it brings me such joy to have the moms that do show up for their appointments and show up to Mamacore and really begin to see the value of like filling their own cup first. I can truly see like the energy within them, the longevity that they have, like the vitality that they feel. It's not perfect. Motherhood is still very hard, but it gives me a lot of confidence in their body's resilience, and the capacity for resilience that they are building, because they are doing these small practices that fill their cup and fill their reserve a little bit more each time.
Yeah. And for the patients that do come, I don't know about how your office is structured, but my front desk lady, office manager, loves babies. She has 5 kids, and when they do come, she'll hold your baby
Love it.
and just relax, try to, like you said, reset. And I mean, for myself, I know they, especially with all those stressors on your nervous system, it almost feels like you're humming. Your whole body
Yeah.
is like just vibrating.
Yes.
And it's so important to, like you said, calm the nervous system, get adjusted, get some muscle work done, maybe work on your breathing, that kind of thing. But,
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And that is like one of my favorite things about a family chiropractic practice, because we have our staff loves babies, and they'll hold them, or the toddlers, the big brother that's running around and like wants stickers, and just like it's a centerpiece for our community of life. And that's really, we're in this phase, or we're really trying to foster that and nurture that within our practice,
Mhm.
um, because it's a beautiful thing. It offers such a safe and healing space for families, not
Mhm.
just the mom.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I definitely get that.
Mhm. Now, with your Mamacore class being more virtual right now, do you have like a private group that you have on Facebook or something where they can be a community, or do you do anything
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. So we have a Facebook group.
Group,
It's
it's
called Mamacore Community. And then within Instagram, honestly, the community is on the Facebook group.
Mhm.
There is a lot of like side conversations within the Instagram side, where most of the time it's the moms that are in my virtual class, which is offered through my local yoga studio. We
Mhm.
actually talk on Instagram. I don't know why that happened, but like that's where most of the conversation happens.
Yeah.
But if anyone wants to learn more about Mamacore, I would say follow it on Instagram, and it's Mamacore Method on Instagram. And
Okay.
then the Facebook group page is Mamacore Community.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So, where do you see Mamacore going? I know when we had talked earlier, you do some like a course and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh man, being in the midst of early motherhood and with business ownership, and exactly, I think we're exactly at the same space.
Yeah.
So of course, like I would love, my goal is to create a simple program for any of the moms that come through my practice, or anyone that is looking for these flows. So Mama Core is really, what is unique about it is it takes, similar to like a yoga flow, and
Mhm.
it blends a lot of the postures that help to rehab the pelvic floor, and integrate the core and pelvic floor connection. It
Mhm.
flows them together, so it allows it to just feel a little more organic,
Mhm.
and fun, in my very biased opinion.
Mhm.
So those flows, the way I teach it in the virtual classes or the in-person classes before, is I have them all set up in levels. So level 1 is less than 6 months postpartum. Level 2 is less than 1 year postpartum, and level 3 is beyond 1 year postpartum. And
Mhm.
were all created to specifically for my patients that also needed these very specific, like, okay, I'm 4 months postpartum and here's my flow.
Mhm.
So that is the dream. I wish I could give you a timeline on it. I don't have a due date on that. I hope to get that done within the next year.
Do you have prenatal clients in Mamacore, or is it just
No,
postpartum?
I have an amazing prenatal yoga instructor in my community that I refer all of my prenatal mamas to. And Mama Core is very specifically for postpartum.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
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 So what with the yoga studio, do you have them, do you give them tips on how to alter their regular yoga practice to make it more conducive to postpartum rehab? Because for me, there are some things in the Ashtanga practice, which the studio I take at is pretty heavily Ashtanga based. And some of those things I'm like, oh, don't do that for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. Definitely. The way that I communicate it is I just say the purpose of Mamacore is you take Mamacore first to learn about your body, to learn how your body feels in certain movements and positions, and to essentially like become aware of where you are in your healing journey so that you can return to the exercise of your choice. I have a lot of moms that love yoga, that love marathon running, that love CrossFit. There's a pole studio near me that I've been meaning to try out because I've a group of patients that are obsessed with pole and also bar. So like all of those things are so amazing for our body once we are ready for it.
Right.
And so my dream would be that every mom would take Mamacore before returning to that. And with the levels, as soon as she's level 3, so I call the levels, even though they're based on like chronological timelines of postpartum, so less than 6 months, less than 1 year, beyond 1 year, I tell all the moms in my class, like, just because this is like based off a time doesn't mean that you can't step into the next level. These are just like guideposts along your way. So for my super ambitious 5-month postpartum mom that wants to get back to CrossFit, as long as she can perform level 1 and then get into level 2, maintaining her breath and maintaining the integrity of the posture, and then step into level 3 and do level 3, maintaining the breath, the integrity of the posture, then she can get back to training for that marathon or getting back to CrossFit or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely like a stepping stone to movement that you love.
Yeah, I think that's important too, because you are going to have the client or patient that is fine with taking a nice, slow, easy back into it, but they're going to have other people that are like, so can I go running?
Yeah.
Weeks, kind of a thing. And
yeah.
I think if you give them that ownership of, as long as I hit these markers well with good form and everything like that, then it gives them that light.
Definitely. And I'm not sure if you've noticed this. I mean, I see this far too often. It is the moms that return to exercise with the mindset of maybe aesthetics, maybe losing the weight, essentially a mindset that's anything other than nourishing her body and healing her body. Those are the moms that I see around 1 year postpartum with like severe back pain, with a cervical disc, because they push their body too far, too fast. So one of the pillars of Mamacore is to just like slow down and give yourself the grace of that golden window of time where you can truly reset your physiology and support your health like for years to come. And I have had, since going virtual, I've had quite a few Nanacores, so grandmothers take Mamacore.
Awesome.
And what the feedback I get from them, other than like them saying that they wish they had something like this when they were new moms, is they just assumed that some form of stress incontinence was normal. Like they just assumed that that's what one should expect after babies. And no one had ever taught them, you know, that doesn't have to be your normal, that if you maintain these pillars of movement, of breath, then you can, that doesn't have to be this grandmother's daughter's experience. So just creating space and opportunity for women to get the facts, get like the real conversation about having the awareness that their body is incredible and it has just up leveled in a major way, and that they actually can dictate, they can improve their health going forward, but they have to apply a whole new mindset. No longer can the mindset of push yourself until it hurts, move faster is better. No longer will that mindset serve you. And what really is counterintuitive to our culture's narrative, our culture's conversation, is that the slower you move now, the faster you heal. And that if you just honor this physical vessel that just created life from 2 cells, birthed life, and now is sustaining and nourishing life, and just give this physical vessel the time and gratitude that it deserves, I mean, you are off to the rate, like, it's just going to be a beautiful journey from this point forward.
Yeah, I do see that a lot in patients, no matter like what level of postpartum, but I think the reason why they don't often connect it with pushing themselves too fast earlier, at least for my patients, is that it doesn't show up to them as directly related to their, or, like hip pain from a decentrated hip that's from not properly stabilizing their core, or even shoulder pain. A shoulder problem is a neck problem, is a core problem. So I don't know why this would be affecting my shoulder, but it could be for sure. And I love the Nanacore thing, because I worked this past week, I worked on a lady that had 2 C-sections and a tummy tuck, but the scar was, 25 years old. I'm like, you're still postpartum. I mean, you're never not postpartum. You had the kids. It didn't just magically go away. But the fact that something like that can still be addressed decades later, make really a substantial difference, and then do the exercises that you do with the freshly postpartum people.
Yeah, definitely. And it brings it back to like an even playing field again. I have learned so much from the women that have taken Mamacore, and it's the Nanacore category that has really flipped everything on its head, because we all think that postpartum is a short period, and everyone has different like definitions of when that is. But I think we're both on the same page, and we agree that postpartum really lasts, like once you are postpartum, you're postpartum forever. And so you would think that the levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, based on these less than 6 months, less than 12 months, beyond 1 year, you'd think that an Nanacore then would be, well, she's way beyond 1 year, so she's level 3. But they bring it back to reality, and some of these women are very fit individuals, and they're 20 years postpartum, but they start back at level 1, and they notice, this the strength showing up in areas that they haven't been able to connect to in a long time, pelvic floor awareness again. And even just noticing that they are finally firing their glutes appropriately, and that they're like, oh, I feel that in my glutes, and I haven't felt that for years, and they are super active women. So it's really amazing and this is the piece that we have DNS to thank so much for. It's just integrating this primal portion of our nervous system, because all babies, when you look at their movement patterns, there's no such thing as a baby personal trainer, and all babies move from being on their backs to rolling to sitting to crawling to these beautiful squats to walking, and you just watch them move, and then you watch them breathe into their perfect little Buddha bellies, and no one is telling them that that's not aesthetically pleasing. No one's telling them to suck their belly in. And all babies are born with the separation of their abdominal wall, and all babies are born with a weak pelvic floor, hence the diapers. And they were primarily are programmed to go through these movement patterns. That is what DNS has measured and tracked and taught. And all of these movement patterns then are what heal and strengthen them, and also program and neurologically connect them and help them be ready for development moving forward. And then as the mother to get on the floor with our baby at each of those developmental stages and do these movements that we teach in Mamacore in a way that really reminds us that we have the same power, the same innate intelligence within our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates connection between us and our baby, and it creates connection between us and our own bodies. And it's just a really powerful thing. And I'll forever be grateful to DNS and developmental kinesiology and all the OTs that have been, on my way to. I work with a lot of OTs locally as well that have taught me a lot. So yeah, it's really incredible how our nervous system is just programmed for health if we would just get out of our own way. Like, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you pointed out, we just filmed a diastasis episode, and pointing out, so I like to point out to patients, you already had a diastasis. You were born with one, so you might have one now, and it might not aesthetically close, but we can give you function back.
Yes,
so
totally.
You did it once, you can do it again. You just have
to. Wait, did you just say you filmed that for your Instagram account? Did you?
For a podcast. So we have.
Okay, share that with me, because that is something that I like all my patients need to hear, not just from me.
Yes,
so
right.
That would be awesome.
You hear how many times you need to hear it before
yes
or whatever.
Exactly.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for talking with us about your stuff. I love your stuff. It's similar to what we do in the office, and I love seeing another yoga practitioner kind of incorporate it with DNS and those sort of principles. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I will have your stuff linked. So if anyone wants to try out Mamacore or, follow them on social media or on Facebook, definitely click below and you can find all of her info. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.